welcome everyone to this very nice and sunny July day. Hi, Colorado. My name is Thomas King, a learning designer in SILT, and I'm joined today by my colleague Donna Lewis from the Vula Help Desk. And today we're going to be talking about some of the more advanced features of the Vula Lessons tool. If any of you haven't attended the basic features or are new lecturers who haven't used lessons before, this might be a bit out of, it may not be the most useful webinar for you. That being said, I see almost everyone is either a prior attendee. I recognize from prior sessions, so I don't think that applies to anyone in the room. Our session, we're going to have some demonstrations of some more advanced features, but we really would encourage you to share like specific questions that you have. So if you do have some interesting scenario that you'd like to talk to us about and just share with your colleagues, please do feel free to put that in the chat, and we will have a dedicated question answer section at the end that you can ask your specific question if we haven't already addressed it. And I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Okay. And we're going to start off today. These are the main topics we'll be discussing. So linking to different kinds of tools, duplicating and moving pages, including from one Vula site to another, restoring contact and importing from other sites, so moving tools like tests and quizzes from one site to another, the Vula lesson templates, and as a bonus, some CSS formatting for those who want to stretch themselves in terms of visual design. And in a related note, the concertina and columns function in Vula lessons pages. Subpage access and restricting it to specific groups. If you have multiple groups that you want to have different kinds of learning experiences on your site. And very briefly touching on incorporating third-party and external tools. And I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Donna, who's going to take us through the initial section of the site, of the webinar. Donna, you want to share your screen or?
Yes, let me try and
Cool.
do that. Sorry, you keep coming in and out. So, yeah, I'm very sorry if my internet dips.
Great, fantastic. There we go.
Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to take you through is linking tools into your lessons page. So as Thomas spoke about, we went through the basics in the session before this, and we'll go into a bit more of advanced steps here. So as Thomas has so nicely already set it up, what we are trying to do is link our tools to look somewhat like this. And obviously, we're not going to make our lessons page look like this. In the previous session, we spoke about the importance of instructional text. So we're not just going to have the link and hopefully the students understand what we're doing. We're going to make sure that our instructional text is there first before we create the link. So in order to link, for example, to an assignment, we are going to click on add content. So remember, if I click on add content, it's automatically going to add the content at the bottom of the page. If I want to, for example, add the assignment above everything, I can click on the plus sign, and wherever I click on the plus sign, it's going to add that above. So I'm going to look down and click on link to an assignment. And thank you to Thomas for setting up this page. I have an assignment already created. If you can see, there is an option to create an assignment. I would suggest creating everything before the time, just so that you're not busy with decompartmentalized things and trying to do other things while trying to do and set up your lessons page. So I'm going to leave that little radio button ticked on assignments, and I'm going to click on use the selected item. And if you can see, just as it's been created there, my assignment has been created on top. I can then choose to edit the name of the assignment if I click on the edit button, and there's a few things I will take you through in a little bit. Okay, another thing I can do is the same time, I can click on the plus sign, I can scroll down, and I can click to link to a test or quiz. And again, a test or quiz has already been created. Thank you, Thomas, for creating the quiz. I can also, if I need to, click on create a new test or quiz, but I'm going to leave it on there and click use selected item. So if you can see, linking is not that difficult. It's just knowing what you want to link and where you wish to put it. I'm going to click the plus sign again, and I'm going to choose to link a forum. And I can then choose if I want to link the entire forum or just a topic that's being created within the forum. And I can click on use selected item. So if you can see the difference between the assignment, the quiz, and the forum, it gives you the little icons over there. I can also then choose, for example, to link something like perhaps we have Q&A like we have over here. I can choose to link it even though the option is not exactly available in the lessons template. So if I click into my Q&A, this is what I've also found out quite recently, is if you look at the top over here, there's an option to click on the direct and get the direct link for this specific page. So I can copy that link, go back into my lessons template, click on the plus sign. So I'm going to add more content, and I'm going to add content links. I'm then going to paste my URL in over there and click on save. And if you can see, a direct link to the tool has been pasted over there. So if I click on it, it automatically takes me to the Q&A tool with my lessons page already open. Okay.
Donna,
Yes,
can I interrupt?
please. Yes, please do.
You can, of course, then always change the name by just going to the edit button on the right. Yeah. Up there and changing to Q&A or whatever. One thing to note is the advantage of using specifically the link to forum, to link test quiz, link to assignment tool is if you duplicate your site over years, or to roll over your site, which we'll be showing you to do in a moment or two, those links then will propagate forward. Whereas a direct link like this one will link to the Q&A tool in the 2021 iteration of the site. In other words, it's going to be a broken link in your future sites because your students won't be able to access that. So where possible, you please use the link to a forum, link to test or quiz, or link to assignment. For those tools which don't have that option like Q&A, just know that you'll have to edit those links in previous versions and versions of the site from going forward. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I just need to move so that there's not so much noise in the background. Excuse me. Okay. So next, I'm going to show you, if you can see at the bottom over here, we've created a link or a sub page. So how you create a sub page is by clicking on add content and add sub page. And then you can give your sub page a name. So for example, just in terms of sub pages, I'm just trying to get back to, there we go, that's better. It's going to click over here. So with regards to creating sub pages, it might be useful to create a sub page to group things such as readings, different tasks that you might exactly where to go to find the readings. And I can click on create. So now I've created my sub page. And if I click on my lessons template again over there, I have created my sub page, and it has come at the bottom of my page over here because that's where I have directed for it to be. Now that I've created this sub page, if I click on the edit option, again, there's an option to rename the page. But if you can see here, there's also an option to hide the page. So I can choose to hide the page. Perhaps I only wish for my students to see it in 2 or 3 days time while I am still populating the page with the readings, something like that. I can then choose for it to, for example, only be available on Thursday at maybe 5 o'clock, and I can click on done and update item. So now that I've done that, if you scroll to where the subpage is, you'll see that it notifies me it will not be released until the 8th of July at 5 o'clock. At the same time, with subpages, I could also click on the editing option. And at the bottom, if you have already created groups, or if groups is something that you are making use of in your Vula site, and you have already created groups, you'll see there's an option to edit. Oops, sorry. There's an option to click on who I want, or which groups I want to be able to view this. So if I click on that option, I don't know why it popped. I'm sorry for that. I can then choose and select which group I would like to be able to see my subpage, and then click on update item.
So for context's sake here, you could use this to, for example, share different project information with different groups of students. And because they're hidden by group, each group will only see one page with the appropriate information on that page. You could also use it. In fact, I've seen entire courses which actually have multiple courses on the same Vula site. And basically they all come to the same place to start and then divide off into 2 separate pages with different course codes essentially attached to those different pages. So 2 courses, like 2 course codes, would be actually operating within the same site and then bifurcating out. That's a bit of an advanced use. That's something that needs to take quite a lot of care to do, but it is certainly possible. Thanks, Donna.
Thanks, Thomas. Thomas is good at the complicated things, by the way. He's a good one to ask if you have complicated questions. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Or if you wish to wait until the end, be happy for you to unmute and take your questions at the end. Okay. Thank you, Thomas. We are now going to move on to duplicating sites and importing content, which is important to note. As someone that's on the Vula help desk, we often get these sorts of questions and queries that pop up about creating sites and duplicating sites. So let me take you through duplicating a site. So a lot of the time what happens is there's different options, but
Hi, Donna, we lost you there. Hi, folks. Unfortunately, Donna's internet connection's been struggling a little bit. So I'm just going to take over for her. Sorry, Donna. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, Thomas.
Fantastic, thank you. So if you needed to ever, for instance, in the next semester, you have.
Thomas, I have no idea what happened.
No stress, no stress. You can go to your site and under your site setup tool. So imagine this was the first semester site for a course. And we want to repeat it, and you don't want to create the whole thing from scratch again because you've already built a nice layout and design. Going into site setup, you can go here to duplicate site. You just give the site a new title. So we're just going to call this duplicate 1. And of course, choose the academic year, which is 2021, and click duplicate. This process will take a little bit of time, but it will duplicate your site as is. In fact, because this one's quite small, oops, you can see I've already got my duplicate 1, which will then maintain my lessons page orientation. If I had resources, it would pull the resources across. if I had assignments, tests, and quizzes and forums, it will replicate those without the student input. So it replicates the structure, but it'll scrub all the student data, like student submissions and so forth. And it will also unpublish everything. Hi, Asanda, can anyone else hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
So let me just quickly respond to that. It will then also unpublish all your assignments. So it's duplicated the assignments that I pulled through, but it has turned them into draft versions. This is actually excellent because then you have to go back into them, edit them, and go and do things like, for example, change the available and due dates to the correct times and so forth. It will retain all the instructions and the attachments you put will be the same, but it gives you an opportunity to revise the assessment or assignment to the new course dates. The same process will happen for tests and quizzes. My quizzes will all become drafts. And likewise, my forums will be mentioned, indicated as drafts instead of their full things. So you will need to do a little bit of work, but it will replicate the structure of your course as it was, rather than having to create a site from scratch. It won't pull any user data, so you'll still have to add your course code or get your departmental or faculty manager to add your course codes. Okay, we've got some questions there. Chris, does duplicate work for course code, official course sites? Yes, you can duplicate any site, but it won't pull that course code in. So you do need to, okay, your answer is fantastic. And I'm going to do David's and then Michelle's. David, duplicate, do you start on the new page or the original page and pull through? So you will start on your existing, let's say this is your first semester course, and then click duplicate site. Once the process has run, it will create a new site in your course list. And so this is like the second semester version of this one. You can, however, if you have already created your new site and you started doing some work and you don't want to do this process, you can import from your old course site. And the process for that is you go to your new site, your second semester site, go to site setup and click import from site. If you want to replace, if you've done some work which is wrong and you want to replace and tidy, click replace. Or if you want to merge, so keep your old content but add new content, you click I would like to merge your data. And then you'll get a list of all the sites that you are, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, it's site owner or support staff for, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I have a lot because I do a lot of things, but I can go to any of these sites, for instance, take that one, and then it'll ask me which tools I want to import. So I want to import all of the resources and tests and quizzes, but I don't want to import the lessons. Or I want to import the overview and tests and quizzes, but not anything else. And then all that content, when you click finish, will be pulled across into your new site, taking usually between 5 and 15 minutes, depending on how much content it is. Cool. Asanda, I see your questions. I'm just going to answer Michelle's first. Missed the first 5 minutes, may have covered this. My question is, if you lose lessons and add files for our own computer, does this use more data for students? Is this not advisable? Hi, Michelle. No. So what I'm assuming you mean by that is going into a lessons page and you want to link to a file. So you go add content, add content link. And you're selecting it from your computer using this browse function. And you want to pull in my retirement annuity contributions, which I'm not going to do. If you do that, it actually does put it into your resources folder. So it still goes through the normal resources folder 0 rated route. So it's it doesn't use any more data doing it this way than going into resources first and building it there. I would recommend, though, that you do rather first go into resources and upload the file so you know where that file is in resources, because it's going to go to resources anyway if you upload from your computer. It's all of it goes to resources. Rather you upload it so you know where it is in case you need to change it. Just shout if that hasn't answered your question. Okay. Let's good. Okay, it has. Fantastic. And now our next question is from Asunda. No, Asunda, it does not automatically add participants. You will need to get someone, generally your faculty or course departmental manager, to add the course code to your site. And if you are struggling with that, just contact help at Fuller and they'll be able to help you out. You said, Asanda, you had a question on importing. Would you like to just ask that now?
Yeah, please, Thomas. Hi.
Sure.
Two questions, actually. The first one is on importing lessons specifically from other sites. But if you're co-teaching and you do not want to import all, say, 12 or 14 lessons, you just want to import 6 or 7 of them, are you able to do that? Or can you can only import all lessons if you select lessons? That's the first question. And the second one is, I've gone to some of my previous sites, last year's sites, and I've tried to download readings that I had uploaded last year. And sometimes I struggle downloading. So when you are importing, is there a guarantee that you will be able to access the readings or the PDF documents that you had uploaded last year? And sometimes even some of the videos, if you had uploaded videos, or is there something wrong, or if that's not necessarily, so what can you upload and what can't you upload when you've chosen lessons, but you're still unable to download some of the PDFs? I don't know if those two questions are clear. Thanks.
The first one certainly is. He said suddenly having, the importing only a few lessons pages. Unfortunately not. So it will just import all your lessons pages in, and then you'll need to go to your site setup and just delete the unused pages, the ones you don't want. Sorry about that. In terms of resources, so if you are importing lessons pages from previous or different courses, it's advisable that you also import the resources folder. Because those lessons will generally link to various kinds of resources. Now, what that means is you're probably going to import more resources than you'd want to. So it is, if you only want to import a single lessons page, it's probably better to recreate that page. If you have, for instance, 12 lessons pages with lots of content, it's probably better to do it manually. If you want to import a whole bunch of them and keep them mostly the same with some edits, then you want to import the full lessons and resources tools from another site, and then just do a careful content check that everything is still accessible. I'm not quite sure why you would have struggles with downloading. I think that's probably best to just send a help request to help at Fuller and see if they can help you with that. I'm not quite certain what that would be related to. Does that answer your question?
If I may.
Oh, go ahead.
Just specifically with the recordings, the lecture videos, if you have lecture videos that you are wishing to move to another site, you are going to need to let us help at Vula know and ask us to move it across, because from your side you'll be able to see it, but the students actually can't. So what we will need to do is go on the back end and make sure that we link it to the location, which is the original site that was created or found in, so that students can view it in the new site. I hope that helps a little bit just to understand.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. We've got a question from Zenda here about next page. So that I believe is this function over here under the change page. You can do next page. To be fully honest, it's a navigational tool which I don't think is particularly heavily used in general. If you have a number of subpages, you can link them as next pages, and I believe that allows you to. Sure, Donna, can you help me out here? Because I've never actually used it.
What is this, creating subpages?
In subpages, when you create, you have this next page link over here.
Oh, so if you want to, you can sort of say like sub module 1 and say next page, and then instead of creating subpages, it actually creates, if you put the like you want 5 pages, then it gives module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, instead of you having to create 5 separate pages, if that makes sense. So it doesn't actually create a subpage, it just creates a whole lot of different pages with numbering for you.
Cool, thanks. And then Sydney goes, Chris, not sure if you will cover this later, but when I duplicate a lessons page, when I edit a subpage on this page, I also edit the subpage on the duplicated lessons page. Okay. Interesting. I think I know what you're referring to. So let's just quickly go into this hidden subpage and add something to it.
Hi, maybe I can just explain.
Sure.
So sometimes, you know, you make I do a lesson, one lesson page, and I've got the outline that I want. I haven't actually, and I've populated it with, you know, lectures and subpages and whatever. And then I just want to make a duplicate of that so that I can continue and sort of modify, let's say lesson 2 week page. But then when I try and edit the subpages there, then it edits the subpages in my lesson 1 sub week, which then becomes a problem because when I queried it with our edu people, they said that I have to always recreate my subpages. I mean, and that goes from adding the icons, the images. So I just wondered why that would be, because a lesson page, if you duplicate it, I can change the main lesson page and nothing happens to the duplicate, but I can't do the same thing with the subpages.
I couldn't tell you why that is the case. What I'm assuming you did is create a lessons page over here, went more tools, add more pages, make new pages duplicate of the current one. Is that right, the process that you took?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I'm guessing is that they all are linking to the same subpage, which is why it's doing that. But basically, they're all like redirecting to the same page. It's just appearing on multiple pages.
Yes. Yeah.
So a way to get around that is, if you delete the link to your duplicated page and create a new one. You don't have to create everything from scratch. You can duplicate using other content. In fact, that's the next one on our list. So using this reorder tool, you can add items from another page into your existing pages. And this is really good for example, you put a lot of content onto your top level lessons page. That's these pages over here, the ones that appear on your bar. But you actually realize you want to move them into a sub page. So you can take this, for instance, the subpage that I've got here, and by clicking reorder and add items from another page, I can pull content from one of my existing pages into that subpage. And you see it'll replicate all the content that I put into that other page, and then replicate it as is, and then I can either delete that here or once again go to reorder and delete tools like that. So I think for your particular problem, the easiest way is probably going to be to delete those subpages, recreate them, and then just use this reorder function to get the same content layout from your first subpage. And when you change things here, it's not going to change things on your other pages. So sorry, a bit of a weird workaround. But it will work.
No, but I have done that actually, because when I went,
Really?
I mean, that is the alternative. So even if you, I mean, my issue was just that when I create a subpage on my new top level lesson page, then I can't edit it without editing my duplicated top level lesson page subpages. Oh, I'm not explaining this very well. Yeah, never mind. I'll figure it out.
Because please. So you did figure it out, a solution? Or?
No. Well, what I have to do is I can do this and I can recreate a duplicate of my top level lesson page. Then I have to go and delete all the sub pages that were also copied, and then restart and redesign all my sub pages again. So that's the only way I've been able to recreate or generate sub pages on a duplicated lesson page, if you understand.
I do. Would you mind just sending an email afterwards? Maybe we could just set up a quick consult and see if there's some way that I'm not seeing to resolve this
Yeah,
problem. Because
sure,
I don't
sure,
think you
sure.
should be having to do this.
Sure.
I'm sure there is a better way. Cool.
Okay.
Thomas,
Yes, Chris.
sorry, I put on my hand and I put a comment in the chat.
Yes, I see that. Yeah.
I've seen that a lot. If you do the reorder and then add items from another page, when you pull it across, if you then edit the thing a little bit to change it slightly because you want to change the number or something, it then changes both, if that makes sense. Both the one on the page you're working and on a page back.
Right.
So it is a common bug, if I can phrase it that way.
Curious.
Thanks, Chris. That's exactly what I wanted to say.
I understood it because I've been there.
It's very interesting. Donna, could you just report that back to the development team and see what's might be going on there? Because I don't think I've experienced the problem myself. But if it's more than one person, then it's definitely a thing.
Yes, I will do so. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the collaboration. It's definitely something we need to investigate because that's not okay.
No problem.
I really appreciate that. And yeah, please do feel free to just contact me by email if you want to set up a one-on-one so we can maybe work out a solution. In the meantime, I'm just going to quickly answer Rafiel's question. Rafiel, to duplicate a lessons page, if you go into your top level page over here, click More Tools, and click Add More Pages. And then click Make the new pages copies of the current one. Then you can choose however many pages you want, so 4 lesson pages. And if you just call them something like lesson 1 or module 1 or week 1 or whatever, it will then create multiple duplicates once my computer decides to start working and add them to your bottom here. And each of these are going to be duplicates of the page above, the one that I copied.
Thank you.
Except apparently for subpages, so maybe hold off on the subpage design until we've worked out what the problem is.
Yeah, that's fine. At least I know how to copy the main stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Glenda says, does it solve the problem if you add the top level pages? Yeah, I certainly haven't seen that as an issue, Glenda. I think it should work. This seems to be more of a subpage related issue. Do you have anything else to add there? Was that it?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I know they're different structuring it. So you can, you have your lesson tool that has a number of subpages, and the subpages are week 1, week 2, week 3, or alternatively have on your left-hand side on the toolbar a number of lessons like module 1, module 2, module 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a different way of approaching setting out the content. And I'm wondering if you do the module 1, module 2, module 3, you don't have that subpage complexity.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still relatively new.
No, Chris is saying he's only ever seen on subpages, so that does sound like it's a subpage issue. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to some of the more visual elements that you can do using lessons, and please do feel free to keep shooting things to the chat. Over here, we've got an example of, we've got a little bit of a visual element over here in terms of, we've got some formatting here. And for those who don't know, whenever you add a new text box to a lessons page, over here next to source, there's a template section which has a range of different pre-formatted text things. So for example, there's a key idea box where you can just change that. The idea is XXX, or templates for readings, like specific kinds of readings that you want to do, or a template for a key information box, which has pre-populated module dates, time to complete, and so forth. And that's in any of the text boxes which have this rich text editor. So in fact, you can actually use these in forums, in assignments, even in announcements if you want to do. this, if you see this kind of text box, this templates function is available. And they can just be used as quick, like a quick sort of visual marker for your students that there's a consistent design and that they know that, okay, key ideas are going to be replicated on each of my lessons pages, and I can go there for a quick reference. Or I might use template design for learning outcomes and have consistent learning. Oops, put that in a bit of a weird place to put over here. Learning outcomes will be marked with this little bullseye on my various lessons pages. And Lucretia, yes, that exactly is what we're about to discuss. You can create, well, sort of. You can't add new templates in an easy way. You can please send us a request to say, can we add a new template to that list? And then it'll have to pass through the development team. I'm afraid I don't know what the time frame for that is. But you are certainly able to create your own visual design by simply, creating a new piece of text, adding an image, using the add image button, putting some text, and then just copying and pasting that across your different pages. That would be one way of creating your own template. Or if you want to get really, really fancy and you know HTML, you can actually do some more drastic customizations. So here we have this rather Spartan page design. It's perfectly acceptable. It's got everything it needs. It's got the links and so forth. It's a perfectly workable page. And over here, we have some with a little bit more visual elements involved. We've got some different concertinas. We've got some more dynamic bars for our different tools and so forth. If you would like to get this particular design with these particular colors, what you'll need to do is A, ask me to give you the CSS file, and B, in your lessons page, over here under the custom CSS file, you'll need to browse your computer and upload a new CSS file. If you call it something like this, a random name, it'll just apply to this one page. If you call it just default.css, it will replace on all of your pages. So they'll all have this kind of lesson design, this kind of layout.
Thomas, can you just repeat that?
Sure. So if you want this particular kind of design with these little boxes and these concertina formatting, on a single page, you just need to call the file anything except for default. If you want it to replicate across all your pages, in other words, you're changing the default design of your entire site, if you call that CSS file default.css, then it will replicate throughout your entire site. So if you would like that, please just, well, in the follow-up email to this, I will attach that CSS file to the email. And if you'd like to employ it on your site, then you can do that. What you will also need to do is, so this is exactly the same as a normal link to assignment box. So if I create link to assignment, find my assignment, click select item, you'll see it appears as normal. And I need to call this, in this instance, button download. And this is test download, and this is forum download to make them appear in this manner. This does require a little bit more sort of manual work, and it can be easy to get lost. So if you would like this kind of design on your site, please feel free to email me and we can set up a session to chat about it. It's not difficult, it just requires a couple more button clicks and uploading things to kind of specific places and so forth. Okay, Cheryl's got a question. There's a way if you're prepared to get into the source code and use font awesome. Yes. So likewise, you can, because all of these text boxes are formatted in HTML, you can go into your source, and not quite all of HTML, because there are a couple of conflicts with how Vula organizes its pages, but you can do pretty much a lot of different kinds of HTML formatting here. For instance, using div codes to divide things up in certain ways. I think you can use flex boxes on them, but basically the HTML text editing that you would do on a normal website, you can do a lot / most of that within any particular text box to get a particular kind of visual design, with the exception that div boxes sometimes give you kind of funny results because these are all really just different kinds of div codes as they are. These are very specific HTML stuff though, and if you're not comfortable with HTML and you don't have a lot of time to do it, or if you're very comfortable with HTML and get frustrated with the things that Vula doesn't allow you to do, then I would recommend against it. I just popped my email into the chat for those who want to investigate this option. Kishore asks, can one change the CSS code to allow for different colors, or is blue the set standard? Kishore, I'm assuming you mean these boxes here, the assignment boxes.
That's correct, Thomas. You helped us set that up on our page.
Right. So what I actually did in my CSS is I just duplicated the current set of tags and so forth of code, which these ones are called, oops, sorry, wrong button. These ones are called button downloads. And then I created 2 new ones which are identical, but I just changed the colors. So this is a task download and this is a forum download. So I'm happy to chat to you if you want to either use these colors, I can just send you the file, or if you want to use new colors, I can send you the file, and you can add as many of these different kinds of things as you want, really. You can have one for quiz, one for Q&A, one for forums, one for chat room. I think just email me and we'll have a chat about that. Okay, Asan's got a question. How do you get the text box where you edited stuff? Okay, so that's just a standard text box. That's just, you go to wherever you want the text box to be, click add content and add text here. Or if you want it to appear at the bottom of your page, add content, add text, and then I'll just stick it at the bottom of your page. Cool, cool, Kishore. Look forward to it. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions in the chat so far, but do keep them coming. We still have time. Ooh, section breaks, concertinas, and columns. Yeah. So it is possible. The standard Vula page is quite vertical in that it's all, you can see these boxes all stretch the full width of the screen, and you just stack boxes on top of each other, adding different content for one long linear row. It is possible to have multiple columns. You will first need, like you would do in a Word document, to set up a section break. And to do that, we go to where we want the section break to occur, click and add section break above. You can see this creates a section break where we don't import the same formatting from the above. So I'm just going to label this so that I can see where it is. And in this column, in this section of the site, we can have different kinds of columns. So here I've got 2 columns, and I'm going to mess this up, but I think, yeah, we can even have 3 columns. I have to admit, I don't really recommend the use of columns. If you are using them already and you're comfortable with them, keep going, keep doing so. Personally, I find them quite frustrating to use. I get stuck on where I should be adding content to which column, and moving things between them can get a bit tricky. So I would generally recommend against using multiple columns and just say with your single stacked vertical row of columns, of single column approach. But if you do want to do it, you can by adding a section break, and within that section break, adding column breaks. You can have a section like here where it's all linear, and sections like here with 3 columns, section like here with 2 columns, and another section break here where we're back to a single column approach. You can also, with these sections, turn them into concertinas. So over here, we have 2 kinds of concertinas. One which starts off closed and is formatted like this with this light blue box. And if you click on it, it'll open up that section. Or like this, which starts off open and which we can click to close. So these can be quite nice if you have long pages like I've seen them, for example, where we've had like long lists of definitions. And rather than having one huge long box that students need to navigate, you have concertinas, and each section has its own set of pages, and students can flip through them as they need to. It is another complexity. It's another place for things to possibly go wrong. So if you're not particularly confident, I would say probably avoid concertinas. But if you do have very long pages and you want students to be able to kind of skip between sections or only open the sections that are relevant to them, you can, using section breaks, create these concertinas. The process for doing so is, like I've created the section break over here, and I'm just going to squish it into a single column. Over here with that little square box, I can make that a collapsible thing. And either it starts closed, trying to reload my page, will look like that, or it starts off open. Sorry, because I'm using my special formatting. Or it can start off open, in which case the content, like over here, will be open by default. Okay. Chris has got a question about lecture videos. Just before we do the lecture videos, does anyone have any questions on section breaks and concertinas? Please feel free to unmute. 10,
Hi.
9. Hi,
It's
go ahead.
Zinda again.
Hi, Zinda.
I was, you know, the colors of these boxes are so awful. There's no way to make it a bit brighter, this sickly pink and blue and whatever.
These are the ones in the custom CSS. So the default ones actually don't have color at all. They're like this. They're just simple grays. If you do want to change the colors, that will be kind of a bit of a custom request, and we can chat about that offline via email.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to take it there are no other questions. I'm just going to get around to Chris's question. So Chris asked, when adding a lecture video in a lesson, the default option is new page. I've used inline on the box, the current page, type of embedding the videos in my lessons page. Is there a reason not to do this or any better ways? No, Chris, I think the option you are using is the recommended, well, is my preferred one, having them display in the current page. I don't know of any better ways. I much prefer to have the videos visible rather than having students make another click. So no, I think you're doing the way that I recommend people to do anyway. So yeah, no, spot on. Keep doing what you're doing. And Cheryl, yes, that's great. For Zinda's question, you can go and change the color of these section breaks and so forth in the CSS, but that does require someone who knows HTML and CSS quite well. I'll be honest, I don't. I know how to make duplicates of things and make minor changes like color, but I am by far not an HTML or CSS expert. Yeah. Yes, Sandra, this is the advanced advanced section. This is definitely for people who have some experience in using lessons and want to just take it to the next level. But not you don't have to be a good teacher, and you can use none of these functions and still do a perfectly good job. It's advanced. Yeah. Okay, we've discussed templates and CSS formatting. So lastly, we're just going to close up quickly for third-party tools. For those who don't know, alongside Vuller, which we formally support, we also have contract relations with a number of different third-party tools, the full list of which is available on the SILT website, but includes things like Hypothesis, which is a PDF and website annotator, WooClap, which is kind of like a more advanced version of Mentimeter. It's mostly used in face-to-face, like live video, but can also be put into lessons pages for things like quick polling tools or word clouds and stuff like that. Leganto, which is a libraries add-on, which is for referencing purposes, so building reading lists and so forth. We don't have time to go through any of these specific tools. We do have separate resources contained here, like how to actually add these to your sites. which can be a couple of clicks. It can be a process which takes a little bit of doing. But if you want to add any of these tools to a lessons page, the process for that is going to add content and add external tool. And here you have your WooClap links, your Leganto links, and for some reason, if you go to add learning lab, there you have your hypothesis link. These are more advanced tools for kind of specific learning outcomes. So when we circulate the follow-up email, my advice is if you haven't been to one of these webinars yet on these tools, is you check them out, see what kind of learning advantages the use of those tools could give you. And then if you're still interested, come to us and we can chat about adding them to your sites. You can, of course, use all of these tools purely as links. So not embedding them in your site at all, just going to your UCT account version of the sites and using them. But if you want to put them into your lessons page design, that is possible. Cheers, Amina. Really enjoyed having you here. Michelle, Examity is, I'm going to pass it on to Donna.
Hello, Examity is extremely complicated. It takes a while to set up if you wish to use it for exam purposes, and it is something that I will recommend that you pass on to my boss, Sam, if you have questions about it, so that she can provide you with the actual detail, because we have students that are busy doing exams on Examity at the moment, and obviously there are glitches and things that are popping up. So just so that you can have the full clarity of what it entails and what you will need to do to set it up before the time. If it is something that you are looking into using sooner rather than later, just in terms of finding out and setting up, please. That's as far as I can go.
Yeah. Thanks, David. Really appreciate you being here. Yeah, and we've got a question from Asanda. No, first, Chris, Gradescope. Yes, Chris, we have also a guide on the use of Gradescope, which does linked over here. And I'll just, in fact, just pop it in the chat as well, if you want to read that before we send the email out. That I think you use by adding an external tool to rather into a specific lessons page, but it all looks mostly the same. So yeah, there's a different process, the process for which is outlined in the Gradescope guide that I've attached over there. Asana asks, can you link assignments on lessons to Gradebook? Yes, you can. We have very little time left, but when you create a new assignment, there's an option saying link to Gradebook. You do need to have created your Gradebook first, though. So create Gradebook, then create the assignment, and then link to Gradebook. And then it'll just publish a new column in your Gradebook with that assignment name on it. Let's see, H5P. Email me, Kendra. So H5P, for those who don't know, is a tool we also support at UCT. It's a combination of a thing where you can ask questions, so a bit like the questions tool in Vula, which also has a video overlay function. So you can actually put a video up and then have at, say, 20 minutes into video, a little pop-up MCQ, which asks a question. Our experience with the H5P is it requires quite a lot of learning design support. In other words, someone like me to take you through the process and help you build it. Not because it's a particularly complicated tool, but linking it can be a multi-stage process. So if you're interested in H5P, please let me know and we can chat about it and add it to your site for you.